I had to go.
Good evening, folks. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
Hello there, Jane.
Nancy, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
It looks like, did Pat just sit down at the table?
It looks like it, yeah.
Small. They're very small on my screen.
I know they are. It's hard to see. I know. I just had eye surgery, so I can't even see them very well. So there you go.
Same boat.
Do we have a quorum? It looks like we do, don't we? There's 6 of us.
So,
Text Pat.
looks like Pat, and I don't know who's at the table. I can see Mark and Pat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't know who the other 2 are.
Maybe Ari.
Ari, and I think it's Mike.
Okay, good.
And Mark Doxer.
Who happening over there?
They can't hear you saying that though.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, we're all set.
Okay. All set, so I'll call the January 21st meeting of the Permanent Building Committee to order. I'll take a roll call attendance. Nancy Toomey,
Here,
John Coot. Not here. Greg Stepler,
Here.
Kirk McCormick is not here. Nancy Zimlack is not here. Mark Doxer,
Here.
Mike Nazaro,
Here.
and Ari Greenberg,
Here.
and Pat Tompkins here. Thank you. Just before we get started, I just want to thank everyone. I know we've got a lot of meetings sort of stacked up and a lot of meetings planned from for the first quarter of this year. So I just want to thank everyone for, taking the time. I don't think we have a ton of stuff to cover tonight, so hopefully we can get through the meeting relatively quickly. I think the two most important topics we want to cover are just the expectations on the document review that Brian sent around, and also the whatever we need to do to plan for the public forum next week to make sure we're all on the same page with that. So with that, I'll jump right into the first order of business, which is public comment. And if we have any public comment, anyone online? All set. No public comment. The next order of business, the approval of last week's or last meeting minutes. I don't know if everyone had a chance to review those, and if anyone had any comments. If there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from. What was the date of the meeting?
Just last week.
Yeah, from January 14th.
So moved.
Second? Did I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm gonna, since John Coot and Kirk aren't here, I'm gonna have Ari. You there, Nancy? I'll have Ari and Mike vote in their place on any issues we vote on tonight. So Nancy, approval of the minutes?
that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Aye.
Greg?
Yeah,
Greg?
yes,
Yes.
Kirk isn't here. Nancy's not here. Mark?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ari?
Yes.
And Pat, yes. Motion passes. Moving on to reports and monthly update. Brian, I'll turn it over to you for a quick update. Starting with the schedule, and then we'll move into the working groups.
Thank you. So, you should have all received your invitations for the new permanent building committee meetings. As Pat said, we do have a lot coming up over the next few months, so I know it's going to be kind of a heavy lift, but we should be able to get through that. And so there are invites for that, and I have updated the project schedule. And you also should have received a Word document, I guess in a PDF form that has the dates. So I'll just show you those briefly to make sure everyone knows what we're referring to. And then we'll see if there's any questions. So let's share my screen here. So this is our master project schedule. So we have updated that with all of the revised permanent building committee meeting dates based on the new plan that aligns the Killam project and the recal projects. So you'll see here on this first page, the whole public approval process is laid out. And then it goes on down through, all the meeting minutes. We have also the design phases for the cost estimating down here, design reviews. So I won't go into all the detail, but you can look at that more sometime after the meeting. But all of those dates are in there. And then we also have the summary version that makes the overview a little easier to see. It's this one here. So this highlights, for example, the next permanent building committee meetings and what we believe we'll be reviewing at those meetings. So that kind of gives you an overview. And then also previously I shared this flow chart, which I'll show as well, because I think this is a helpful way to understand this. This is a PDF version, so I can send that out to everyone after the meeting. But it gives you the kind of a good overview of the whole thing, really seeing the different phases that we're going through. So you always know where we are. So we're right now at this meeting here. So we had the initial documents that were sent to the cost estimator. They've had a number of days to look at them. If there's any final issues that come up tonight, I'm not expecting much. We'll still get those over to the cost estimator before they finalize their estimate by the 31st. Then also you can see here, we're starting the design review period. So I sent out information ready towards the end of last week. I'll be going over that in more detail later so people are familiar with what to do. But this is the periods that we're starting now. So that design review will also need to be completed by the 31st. So you can just look at, whichever schedule is most amenable to you. It's a number of different ways to see the information. So any questions on the schedule? Great.
Going on to the communications.
Yeah, so we wanted to have updates from the working group, starting with communications, and I see Josh is on tonight.
Yeah.
So Josh, if you could just give us an update on what the working group has been doing since last meeting. I know we talked about a number of items that were active at that point. And then also, we want to talk about the public forum and any additional items that need to be addressed to prepare for that.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. So starting off, first update, last week we did talk about the suggestion boxes. So Jenna, she did purchase 2 suggestion boxes. We're going to have one in Town Hall and the other one will be at the Pleasant Street Center. I do have one right here. I'm going to lock it down tomorrow afternoon. It's just going to be, it's really simple. If you have any feedback, any questions, please put it in this box. And then I think at the communications subcommittee meeting, we can go over the feedback we receive. So that's number one. Second, we have uploaded the renderings to the recal page from Joel, just so when people come to the page, the first thing they do see is the renderings. You can all see my screen, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks good.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so that's on the website. Third, we have posted the Recal forum on our Facebook page. Just letting people know it is going to be next Tuesday. We included the Zoom link because we've received feedback about some people not being able to go in the evening, so they can attend virtually. And for those who cannot come virtually or to the evening meeting, we're going to be hosting a meeting on Thursday at the Pleasant Street Center at 1 p.m. to sort of provide a recap about what we talked about and just sort of field any questions from those residents that would rather go during the afternoon. The forum, I think, we're probably going to finalize it tomorrow in our communications meeting, but right now it's going to be going over the design and usage of the space, primarily talking with the Council of Aging, the Veteran Services, the Recreation Department, just sort of bringing them in to talk about the programming and the space that they will be using. And then lastly, we did send all of our collateral materials to Dave Cartoonin for that second video. No new update yet. We're waiting to hear back on that second script. But once we hear back, we will inform the group. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so I also wanted to mention at the forum, we will be talking about some cost data, some preliminary cost data using comparable reviews of other projects and just providing an overview of the project costs, how that all gets compiled.
That'll be similar to what you presented last week.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, for the public.
Sounds good.
Anyone have any questions for Josh before we go on?
So, no,
Yeah, so we just want, so I don't know if there's anything to update on sustainability. I think if you weren't here at the last PBC meeting, but we, we had talked about the main issues. Dan from BH+A had kind of walked us through where we stood on those issues, recognizing that we are looking for some cost data on specifically the HVAC systems to better inform the recommendations from the Permanent Building Committee on the design. So I don't know if there's anything else that came up in the meantime. I think from a design standpoint, both for sustainability and with the stakeholder group, if there's anything significant, the drawings were disseminated last week. So hopefully people have had a chance at least do a first pass looking at that. So if anything came up where someone noticed, oh, we're really off on this, or this was missed, then we want to know about it, by tonight so that we can send that information to the cost estimator. So is there any update from the sustainability group?
We haven't really met since that last meeting. That's the gist. The SD carries the basic design mechanical system and 2 alternates. That way we can kind of weigh the priorities in terms of maintenance and cost. We don't yet have quite the energy comparison between the 2 that we expect in DD when the engineer starts to develop an energy model, but at least know what we're up against in terms of expected cost premium for the alternates in terms of mechanical. I think we're also carrying a premium alternate for both the envelope or PEG envelope and glazing products. So that's another kind of choice to weigh, but you summed it up well. We kind of felt it was important to be able to make a recommendation based on data as opposed to just so we're waiting to replicate that's what is into this.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see.
Otherwise, all of we're on track, but all the options are all electric, which we like. I think there's a good understanding and good understanding of the priorities in the process.
thank you.
Then I guess the same thing for the stakeholder design update, Nancy. We talked about, how the working group is pretty happy with the current stage of design and how we're moving into estimating. But now that the drawings were sent out and people had a chance to flip through them and look at things, is there anything that has come up or any other?
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting because it was a little on the late side to do anything on the stakeholders meeting. So we did not have a meeting. The Council on Aging, I'm sorry that Nancy Simlak isn't there to talk about it, but they did question a few items and Joel has those items in hand. But the consensus, I think, is that those items can wait until we get pricing. Some of them involved increasing the size of the building, so I really think it's prudent to wait until we see the pricing before any changes get made to any of the design. But overall, everybody was happy with what has been shown so far. So hopefully they'll make comments as we ask them to on the design so that everybody is informed as to what they're talking about.
And thank you. And Nancy, the other Nancy did just come in a little bit
good.
ago. So do you have,
I didn't see you, Nancy. There you go. My
yeah,
eyes
she
are
wasn't
not
here
at
a little bit ago,
100%.
but
That's okay.
She's here now. So Nancy, if you want to talk about that, that's fine.
Yeah, can I, just a couple things. The first thing was, the Council on Aging met with Human Services today, Elder and Human Services, as well as Recreation and Jenna. And we talked a bit about, the overall layout. And, it was a very spirited discussion. And Jenna, please feel free to jump in. It was a very spirited discussion. One of the things that came out of the discussion, and it was a really good discussion, and in the end, we kind of all agreed on what we wanted to see as the final outcome. And it was a little piece of everybody's idea, if I can be so bold as to suggest that. But one of the concerns, or one of the pieces that came out of it was this whole idea of a senior hub. And where is the senior hub in the drawings? So we had, again, a long discussion about what that was, what the requirements should be, and how it should look. And if you remember way back when we started this whole thing, Joel had an kind of like an A and a B, an east wing and a west wing on the building. And the four of us agreed that, five of us agreed that somehow that concept got lost in the other iterations of the design. But as we looked at the current design, we thought, well, I think we think it's pretty easy to put it back in there. And I don't know if you want to go into the details now. It's a matter of adding a door and moving some of the doors, perhaps on some of the rooms, and switching the program room, which is the program room downstairs, upstairs with the the fitness equipment. So, and they're both the same size, so it's just a matter of switching the purpose of each room. And then adding a door. And in one of the iterations that Joel did, it was, he had a red line across where he thought the two, where the hub was divided from the rest of the building. And somehow, again, that kind of disappeared. And so one of the things we're doing is we're asking that that be put back in. And Jenna, please add any comments that you have.
That covers the conversation, just we were having an operations meeting.
Yes.
And then it kind of filtered into design. So yeah, it was a great open and honest conversation. And I think really any of the design changes we made might actually save money. But we can talk offline with Joel about it, and Pat maybe bring you in because it was kind of a late conversation today.
So, as we go through the design review process, I think that that's excellent feedback. On the surface, the things that you described, like swapping the use of two rooms that are the same size, there'll be some changes there. The fitness room will have a special floor, but from a cost perspective, it's effectively the same thing. moving doors around is kind of not a cost impact. Adding a door obviously is a cost impact, but at this point, adding a door doesn't amount to a major change. And I'm not an expert in like the different stages of feasibility, schematic, design, development. But I feel like everything that you mentioned there should be communicated at this point, but probably would be flushed out in design development. Where it's not like we're suggesting a change that's gonna, eliminate the gym or double the size of the gym, that's gonna be this major. It's all excellent feedback and sounds like it was a great collaborative meeting. But, and we should communicate all those comments, but it should be something that doesn't really impact what we're doing now on the cost. And then Ari, you're on the design side, right? So that sounds like
Yeah,
some things will be flushed out into, or finished up in design development.
I definitely agree with you timing wise in terms of like the bandwidth to make those types of changes and decisions. My only initial reaction, I don't know the specifics of the conversation with regards to I don't think the fitness room is like it's not a heavy like weightlifting component, right? That'd be the only important consideration for what floor it's on. You don't want heavy gym equipment on the second floor and you hear it slamming, but I doubt that that's really a big concern in this type of program. So I agree. It's not a big driver.
Yeah, and so, I mean, generally, for the design phases, schematic design, we're figuring out all the main pieces of the building, how everything fits together, kind of the whole piece. But then in design development, you're working through those details. So not only are you selecting materials, but you're tweaking things. And
Yeah.
so when we put together our cost estimate, we put in a contingency for that, knowing that not all the decisions have been made. Right? So, and then when you get to construction documents, hopefully by that point, everything's kind of finalized, and then you're really working on the contract documents that are going to be needed to execute the construction contract.
You just wanted to mention it.
Absolutely.
We're not experts in the whole cost factor or we.
Yep,
So
perfect.
thought
And
it was important to mention it.
yep, exactly. That's what we want to know. And that's, I think, a good segue to the next part.
So there are a couple more things that were of concern. The kitchen area is reduced from what it was originally. And it's unclear what kind of kitchen it's going to be. And that might factor into a cost. Is it a commercial kitchen? Is it an educational kitchen? Is it a home kitchen? What are we doing for the kitchen?
So Nancy, I believe that we're currently working on a base for a commercial kitchen for that space. Is that?
That's what I understood. I think there's a price for a base commercial kitchen is what was put in the specifications. I haven't gone through the specifications completely yet, but that's what we're getting priced so that we can start
Okay.
there and then go from there.
That's good to know, although the size of it, it's only 500 square feet. And that's pretty small for a kitchen that is going to, no, it's not, but
600.
pardon?
I think it's 600.
Oh, 600 square feet.
Kitchen.
And,
Half the size of the room.
and,
That's a good sized kitchen.
well,
Yep.
it is, but, this I think is like 400 square feet.
250.
200. Anyways, there was concern about the size. And whether it was going to, because as I said originally, it was large. The other concern was in one of the more recent iterations, the hallways were, decreased. And we were just concerned that they're still ADA accessible, but even more important that they're inclusive, so that if you have two wheelchairs coming down the hall in two different directions, are they gonna be able to pass each other? And you know, so that just red flagged it.
So, yeah, these are good things to be looking out for, and I think it's a good segue into the design review, which I'll get into next. But, you know, we're fortunate that on this building committee, we have people with lots of different backgrounds. And so just to address what you're talking about, you know, you're looking at it from that vantage point about, you know, what the 60+ users are going to be looking for, what's important. And that's the kind of feedback we want each person to provide in the design review. You know, stuff that they are familiar with relative to the project and looking at it from that vantage point and providing commentary.
The only reason that I mentioned it here is because you said if there was a cost issue, it was something you wanted to know about tonight. I don't know.
So the kitchen would be like a bigger item, but I think we have that covered already since we're basing it on a commercial kitchen. If we had a residential kitchen in the design and wanted to upgrade to the commercial, that would be a significant price difference. So that one is covered. The width of the hallways, I mean, just from what I remember on the plans, there's, you know, I think most of them, if not all of them, have that, but we will need to check it. If some of them are small, we're talking about a rather small change, and I think that could be tweaked within the building footprint without having a big impact on it.
And one more thing.
Yes.
Again, I don't think it's cost change, but one thing that hasn't been factored in, and it might be in oversight and getting the concept out there, but we do have a computer room downstairs, and there is no designated space for a computer room. And we had a big discussion, does it need to be a computer room? Could it be more like a business center than a hotel, which is a much smaller space? And one of the ideas was the upstairs program room off the atrium that's on the entryways you come in, whether that originally was 700 square feet and now it's smaller. But if it can go back to the original 700 square feet, we think we'd be able to put like a, you know, just a shelf, a table or a counter that would have some laptops on it, because we do have people that don't pay for internet at home and they come here to use the computers. They also come here to print. So just, you know, it's not good space, but it's a little, and those were the.
Yeah, so
wanted to mention.
my suggestion on that, I think that's something that should be brought up again in the next design
Mhm.
meeting, because I think that's gonna take a little more exploration into how that best
Yeah.
works in, you know, with the space. But the technology, I know in the cost estimate, we're carrying a reasonable amount for just all kinds of technology, because that's normally included in the building. And even if we were to add a few computers, it's not a big cost from that standpoint.
And
So,
we have the computers here with the Chromebooks, and we do have the desktop downstairs. If we wanted to bring one desk, anyways, I'm getting down to the weeds and, you know, but some of that would help with this. So,
yeah, so, and again, these are comments that
Yeah,
they're good to put in the design review, because all those comments will be consolidated and streamlined for the design team.
Yep.
And they can then respond to every single comment that's provided. So,
I'll just circle back to say this maybe is something to also table for the design review, so you can stop me and truncate this, but the nature or intensity of the kitchen differs from what my understanding was, just based on previous conversations we had in the sustainability committee, in terms of its impact to MEP and energy use. So I wanted to probe a little bit more into that, of making sure that that's truly needed for the building to have that level of kitchen, because it makes the building use more energy. It's obviously a lot more expensive to do. If the program doesn't need a commercial kitchen to serve the needs of the users well, that it's something that we should evaluate to maybe think of downgrading it to be exactly what the program needs. I know there was some talk about commercial kitchen making the building more rentable potentially, but that seems to go against the typical approach of the town in terms of other spaces in town being rented out for that purpose. So I just wanted to resurface that conversation that if this program doesn't truly need a commercial kitchen to serve the users, I don't think it should be added to the building, included in the building just for the sake of it, because it has expensive implications for the design. So we should just think on that.
Yeah, and I think that's, you guys are making my job easier and segueing to the design review and talking about things like this, because, right, so, and as we go through the design review, we're looking for general feedback, again, based on everyone's areas of knowledge and expertise. And we're also looking for things that you notice where there's potential cost savings. So, you know, what we might call value engineering. So not everyone's going to have the same view on things, and we want to get that data out there, get it documented, because when we get the cost estimates back, we're going to have to look at where we are with this project relative to the budget. And there's a balance that has to happen between what's wanted and what the town is willing to pay for. So having those items identified, and especially noting the value engineering items, will make that process much smoother and I think a lot easier. I'm sure there'll be some discussions, you know, with people have different viewpoints, and some things will be debated, that's normal. But that process will allow us to get through that, I think, smoothly and efficiently. So if it's all right, I will jump right into just kind of going through what was sent out last week and making sure that everyone's aware of how to move forward. So, okay, so this is the email that went out. And there's three things I want to point out here. First of all, there are two ways to conduct the design review. The first area here goes through how you can do that with Bluebeam, and I'll dive into that in a little bit more detail in a bit. But Bluebeam basically is a software that is used commonly in the design and construction industry, and there's a way to coordinate design reviews, whether it's between architects, engineers, or municipalities or building committees. So there's a lot of great tools to do that. One of the nice things is that when you look at the documents, then you'll see whatever markups are already on there, which can be beneficial because you might want to put a comment that someone else has already commented on, and then you don't need to. Or somebody, you see that someone's commenting on something and maybe you have a different view on that or a different question, and then you can phrase that accordingly. So that's the benefit of doing it online, but not everyone, you know, maybe can do that or has internet access. And I think, Mark, you were the one that pointed out Bluebeam is no longer supporting Macs. So sorry about that, but if you operate with Macs, it's not going to work, I guess. So, but no worries, we have a second system for that. And so the second system, basically, you'll use the PDFs that were sent over. So you can see in your email here, there are two PDFs attached at the top, mouse here. And then the drawings were too large, so you'll have to click on this link right here. And that'll open up the PDF drawings, and then you can download it to your computer. So once you've done that, you'll have all the tools that you need and you won't need any internet access. So going this route, this link right here, sorry, my mouse is a little slow in this.
Where it says drawings,
Drawings,
recal,
recal.
Yeah.
SD cost, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually, I just clicked on it, it's opening it up, and I can see if I share that part of the screen.
While it's opening, I just want to echo that Bluebeam is an awesome way to do this. So if you are able to do the Bluebeam version, it's definitely.
Oops.
While we're waiting, do you just bring the drawings into the software? Is that how it works?
The Bluebeam software,
Yeah.
they're already in there and I'll walk through that.
They are,
Yeah.
okay. Right.
Not sure why this is not
Bluebeam
showing.
is basically, it's a PDF software, but it lets you post it in a way where we can all sort of be in there at the same time to get comments in. So we're like sort of collaborating in the same set.
There you go. So when you click on that link, which is what I did, this is what opens up. So you have all the PDF drawings on here. So rather than marking them up here, if you're not using the Bluebeam system, you would open up this spreadsheet. There must be some delay here with the screen. And then I highlighted the yellow areas that you'd want to fill in. Okay, so just to orient you, you have tabs on the bottom that show the different disciplines. So depending on what specification sections or what drawing sections. So just as an example, Nancy, with the comments that you would have, those would be more architectural related. So you would put your comments under the architects section. And then here you list the page, whatever the page name is, the page number, discipline or importance. It's not mandatory. If you want to fill that in, you can. If it's something that you believe to have a big impact on the cost, so in terms of cost savings, then you can flag that here by just typing in yes. And then here's where you would put in your comment. And then finally, you'd put in your name and whatever organization. So, Permanent Building Committee, or if it's being done on behalf of the COA, then you could list that separately. So that's how it works if you do not use Bluebeam. Does anyone have questions about that? No, okay. So if you go back to the email. Okay, so for the Bluebeam version, you will need to download a trial copy. So if you click on this link, it'll take you to the Bluebeam website and you'll need to enter an email address. There's no charge for it. And then you will get a trial version, and I can show you what that looks like here as well. Apologize for all the back and forth here, but so this is the page, since that pops up, where you enter your email address. And then you'll have 14 days of the software, and that'll allow you to go through everything. Once you have the software up, there are training modules that you can access within the software. Share that as well. Okay, so now we're in the Bluebeam software. So if you go under the help section here, you'll see a launch review tutorials. So that's one of the places that you can go. There's about a 1 or 2 minute video that will walk through design reviews and show you all the different tools that you can use. There's a lot more that you can look at as well. So depending on how deep you want to dive into it. But you'll have your tools listed here on the side. There, here you have a toolbox. It's called a tool chest. So if you look in here, there are markup tools that you can use. Really doesn't matter which ones you choose, whichever one is most convenient. So here, this creates a little cloud where you can type in text, or you can just type in text. You can highlight things. But the important thing is both on the Excel file as well as Bluebeam, that you do write in a comment relative to what you're referencing. So if you just mark something, that's not enough, right? You need to provide some description. So let me show you what it looks like on the drawing. So if you have Bluebeam open, we're going to go into Bluebeam Studio. which is this little house looking thing on the bottom. So once you're there, you'll show this Reading Center for Active Living. If you click on that, the drawings will come up. And we have 3 different files. We have drawings, the notes. The notes are information that was sent to the cost estimator that provided some general guidance on what's going into the building. So you should look at that as well, but most of the markups probably will not be there. And then the specifications, and so the specifications, this is still at the schematic level, so it's still very general, but the specifications have information about all the different pieces that go into the building. So you can see here like high level existing conditions, concrete, masonry. So whatever you're dealing with on more of a technical side, you'll want to be looking at the specifications to make sure that the right materials are being proposed here, that there's nothing that's missed in terms of coordination or construction methods. But again, it's very high level at this point, so we're not going to get to too much detail, but it's an important thing to look at to make sure that at least the basics are covered. So most of the comments are probably going to be here on the drawings.
Right, I just asked a question on the previous screen, where it says the sections and it has the numbers. Do those section numbers equal what's on the schematic drawings? You know
Yes.
what I mean? So that's where, if I say I was an expert in metal stairs and railings.
Yes.
I would then look at section 055.
Yes, correct. And if you're looking at more of an architectural plan, and you're saying, okay, well, we're calling out this kind of floor, like a resilient floor, well, what are they talking about using? That's where it would be in the specifications. So drawings, so you're going to see the same drawings like we saw when we opened the link that was in the email. So clicking through here, you have all the drawings listed. You can also use this link here to go more quickly between the drawings. So these are your thumbnails. And, say you want to add a comment to here, you go to your toolbox. I'm going to choose this cloud. So I could just draw a cloud like this and then add some notes to it. And those will then pop up in the comments down here where it shows everyone's comments that were added. And so I know if some people have accessed it, so I put in an example here. So just to show you, so there's a call out that was put in by myself, and I can click on this and it'll take me to the drawing and it'll show me what that comment is. So that's another helpful tool that you can use. So I won't go through all the little tools that are available, but that gives you an overview and so that you're kind of familiar with this, because we do want to get started on that now. Now, on the spreadsheet, I showed that there was a little column for indicating if a certain comment has to do with value engineering. So if you're using Bluebeam, that's done a little differently. So what we do here is when you put in the comment, you would simply add VE to the beginning of that comment, and that creates that little flag that's a value engineering item. So,
We're doing architectural drawing.
yeah.
If BH plus A keynotes the drawings? How some architects do that?
Yeah, I don't think there's keynotes on here yet. That would get done during the
Okay,
construction phase.
that's just a tie into Nancy's question about the spec.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a fan of that for public bid projects.
So Nancy, as the drawings are developed further, there'll be keynotes on these drawings. For example, the metal stair railings, there might be a keynote pointing to it saying metal stair railings, but it'll also have a keynote that'll say 051200. And that tells you that the material for that metal railing is defined under that number, that spec section. But that's not all cross-referenced yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As it also gets down to flooring, there'll be a few different types of flooring. So those keynotes will be on the drawings that the resilient, the flooring in that fitness room will be 096530, which will be a special fitness flooring. And that'll be keynoted on the drawing, so everyone knows the definition, the technical specification of that flooring is in 095330, 6530, whatever it is. But that, at this level,
Yeah, that
Would
happens
be-
more when we get to construction documents, that gets
Yeah.
all put together. So, yeah, so all the drawings are in here, as you can see, BH+A has put together a good set here. We have 43 drawings plus the specifications that we're using for the pricing set and for the design review set.
Are there any P drawings in this yet, or are they just narratives still?
they're narratives.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. That's what I expected. And those narratives are in the spec, or there's a separate narrative?
yeah, so someone's looked at it. I haven't gotten to that.
So that gives me the question, right, so how, when we price it for, right, this is no spec. What are we using for allowances? You
So,
know what I'm saying, there's nothing defined.
well, I think there's something in the drawings for the flooring. If there's not anything in the specs, I haven't looked through all the specs yet, so I may look through here, see if there's a flooring section.
So, I mean,
Have you looked or,
so if you look on the finish. But, it shows LVT, right? So-
Right.
Okay, what's the basis of designing the LVT? LVT, you start here for both you.
Yeah.
Right, there's a line of swing.
well, it hasn't been decided yet. So that's again, goes back to the contingencies that we have at this stage.
No, I get it, but what's the cost estimator? I guess that's my question, what's the cost estimator use as a basis to design? Is he gonna go, and he may just say, I'm gonna go middle of the road, which is
Mhm.
fine. But those are, when I look at this, that's the questions I have. I know it's early,
Mhm.
but it would be good to know what it's doing.
Yeah, so that's a great question to ask. And so even when we get the design review back, when we get the cost estimate back, and that we have those comments in the design review, to ask the question, okay, to the cost estimator, so what material did you carry? You understand, we haven't decided that yet, but are you in the high end or the low end? Is that what we want? Is there an opportunity to save some money by,
Yeah.
reducing that?
As we talked before, it's not bigger, it's just. That should have quality.
Yeah, so and you did check in here that there was nothing there for that.
I didn't.
Okay. Let's see what section I'm in. Yeah, well, take a look at that later. Okay,
There might be a host of questions coming back from the cost estimator too.
Well.
and that's a normal part of the process too, going to the architect is that, so we have our cost estimators working on it, and we've already had a number of questions from the cost estimator to the architect, just, that's normal to clarify some of those items. So that for the, most importantly, that both estimators are pricing the same thing. We don't, I'm sorry, what?
We're gonna reconcile.
Yes.
Estimates at some point.
Yeah, so the estimates will be done by the end of the month, and then both estimators will have a couple days to review the other company's cost estimates, familiarize himself, ask some questions, and then we have a reconciliation meeting scheduled after that to go through it. So we typically go through line by line, both estimators are talking about what they put in, and we see where the numbers are.
I think we have a meeting between those two.
So
So we'll have a meeting, I think our next meeting, we'll see the cost estimates, but they won't have been reconciled yet.
Correct, yeah.
So we'll be,
which is good, yeah.
yeah, so that'll give us an opportunity to give some feedback on that. To look at some things that maybe where there are significant variances and and we can talk about that and provide some clarity. When we see certain line items where there's a big
Mhm.
discrepancy. So,
Yeah, I think when we first get the cost estimates back, it's gonna give us a sense of where we stand, right? Because we don't really know that until we go through that process. The information that I presented at our last meeting was very general, based on other projects that have been built, but not based on this project.
Right.
You know, so this is our first look at this level to see where we're coming in. So, yeah, so I strongly encourage everyone to participate. I see John's now on the call as well.
Brian, could I just step in for a second? It's Joe Huggins.
Yes. Hey, Joe.
Ryan Percival and Public Works did not get these.
Yes, I am getting the list from the town on all the town side reviews. So that will go out, I guess not today, but anymore, but probably by tomorrow morning.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that he could weigh in on the site
Yes.
and the landscaping, and his
Yeah.
input is welcome.
Thank you, absolutely. Yeah, everyone that was in the DRT meeting is going to be invited to provide review, including, you know, police and fire. I know we had some comments from them again, but you know, that's a quick meeting. So they'll have 2 weeks to look at drawings and think of things that come up.
so one other thing, just as we go through, obviously, it's a lot of documents. We have a short amount of time to get through. You know, the review can be as much or as little. We're all volunteers, so I understand that everyone's got limited amounts of time. Obviously, I'm expecting Greg and Ari to be focusing on the MEP. Nancy's gonna focus on the architectural, and John's gonna focus on structural. To the extent we can each review everything, that's great, but to the extent we can't, and anyone that doesn't feel like they can get through it, if you wanna reach out to me, we can always take a divide and conquer approach. If you're looking at these documents and you wanna get into them and do a thorough review, but you know you can't get through all of it, reach out to me and Brian, and we'll try and divvy things up. You know, exterior wall, interior, obviously I'm assuming that Ari and Greg are gonna just we all gravitate to what we're good at. What we know, and you're gonna gravitate to the MEPs, and John's gonna gravitate to the structural. I'm gonna glaze over the MEPs because I'm gonna rely on you guys. But we can divide and conquer, and if anyone, you know, wants some direction on that, just reach out to Brian and I, and we'll kind of try and point everyone in specific directions to review certain things.
Yeah, and to bear in mind, you know, we're at the schematic design level. So we're looking to understand what this building is supposed to be, like, you know, what all the main pieces are and how it fits together. And make sure that we're not missing anything significant. You know, we don't need to get into too much detail about how the building is put together at this point, because we really haven't gone through that part of the design yet. That'll be in the coming stage. But we want to make sure that all the major pieces are there and accounted for, and that they work well together, that we don't have any big holes, or we have things that we don't want in there, you know, that type of stuff. So whether it's from a user group, or whether it's from you know, a sustainability group, or technical things that the town says, hey, you know, you're gonna need to have this in the building. Those are the things that we're looking for at this stage. Okay, any other questions or comments on the design review?
Remind me again
Brian, this is John Coote. Brian,
Hi, John.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I've already put together my comments, and I've got them all typed up, in fact. But one of the problems with this approach is that you can't comment on something which is not on the drawings or not in the specifications. And many of my comments are things which are just not there. You know, you can, there's a lot of stuff which should be not at this stage, but eventually has to be shown, which isn't there. And so my comments are more general, sometimes philosophical, about the design of the building. Can't point to a particular detail or a particular section or a particular plan. So you're going to get a list from me, which is not following this format in any way, shape, or form, because I can't follow this. Okay.
So, yeah,
So
so
people-
maybe what would be beneficial for you, John, if you have, I mean, because you can use either method. So you could go through the blue beam method, you can still add comments. But if you already have them, you know, typed up somehow, maybe the easiest thing to do is to take that spreadsheet and then just copy and paste them in that spreadsheet. And they can
No,
be,
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to send you the list of stuff that I have, because I can't do that in the spreadsheet. Sorry, I don't have time or the inclination. You will get the comments, and you will have to make what you can.
Copy me on what you send him. I just want to read it.
My comments are not the kind of things which I can relate to a spreadsheet.
well,
Let's create a text box on the cover sheet, copy paste his email into it.
yeah, we'll figure out some way to work with you.
So that would
Yeah, they're very extensive, but they are important. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so the reason that they're segmented like that on the spreadsheet is so that they can then be disseminated to the right people who can answer those questions. So BH+A knows, okay, is this a question for our internal design team? Is it going to our structural engineer or mechanical engineer? So we will need to have that.
Yeah, you're smart enough to do that for me. I know you are.
We missed that, John. I'm not sure I want you to repeat it, but go for it.
What's that?
We missed that last comment. Can you repeat it?
I was saying, Brian, you're smart enough to do that for me once you see my list.
He's delegating all his work to you. Well, we got you covered, John. Just send us an email with all your comments.
I'll send Brian, and I'll send Pat you an email with a list of the comments tomorrow or tonight. Okay.
Great. Any other comments on or questions on the design review?
timing again, remind us.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we need to respond.
They're due by the 31st. Okay, I think that's it for our updates.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I think that wraps up the meeting. As promised, relatively quick meeting within an hour. Unless anyone has any other comments or questions. Nancy, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Nancy T.
Yes.
John Coot,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
Brooke McCormick not here, Nancy Zimlack,
Yeah.
Mark Doxer has left, Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg, Pat Tompkins, yes. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.